All right, that brings us to the Board of Retirement meeting for Thursday, May 7th, 2020. And I'm calling the meeting to order. And if we can have a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Pryor. This meeting is being held virtually, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Knox will not be joining us, as well as Mr. Harris. Ms. Ginsburg.
Morning here.
Ms. Gray.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Santos.
Present.
Mr. Sanchez.
Hi, good morning, present.
Mr. Moore.
Good morning.
Mr. Kehoe.
Good morning.
Mr. Robbins.
I'm present.
Ms. Zapanta. Mr. Bernstein.
I'm here.
Chair Pryor.
I am here.
Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, Assistant Executive Officers JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, CIO John Grable, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsels Frank Boyd, Mike Herrera, Jessica Rivas, and Fern Dillingy. Disability litigation staff include Vincent Lim, Allison Barrett, Jason Waller, and Eugenia Durr. Staff and managers participating today include Carly Natoya, Kathy Delino, Ted Granger, Barry Liu, Cassandra Smith, Ricky Contreras, Tamara Caldwell, Vicky Nilly, Carrie Wilson, Hernan Barrientos, Ricardo Salinas, Carlos Barrios, Ellen Cochran, Celso Templo, Ivita Brecco, and Sami Buang. LACERA's medical advisor, Dr. Glenn Arisman, is also joining us today, and we have consultant Gayla Hartso from KH Consulting Group. Trustees, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. I did want to point out Ms. Ginsburg is actually here as a alternate to the treasurer tax collector. Some of our new members might not know that he does have an alternate. So welcome, Ms. Ginsburg. That brings us to approval of the minutes of April 19th, 2020. I need a motion.
I'll move them.
I'll second.
Moved by Bernstein, second by Kehoe.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore. I'll come back to you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
And I.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Mr. Moore. The motion passes by all trustees present.
Copy with a unanimous vote. Thank you. And that brings us to public comment. I've received no requests for comments by the public unless anything came in last minute, Bonnie.
No, nothing has come in.
Thank you. That brings us for our information and March 2020 All-Stars. Mr. Popowich.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to all of the trustees, good morning. This is the time when we recognize those of our staff who have gone above and beyond. And as you'll see them on the screen, our All-Stars for this month are Deborah Gonzalez, Michael Peterson, Faustino Herrera, Vanessa Gonzalez, and the rideshare winner was Regina Harris. Also want to take this time to recognize a group of people and highlight, just some of the compassion and extra effort that we go to for our payees. So from time to time, a member or a payee will experience disruption in payment, maybe due to a change in banking situation, checks not being received through the mail if they're paid by check. And when that happens, we do our best to proactively identify the problem and respond. And that can involve sending out automated letters or sending out making outbound calls to the payee to try and resolve the problem. And so recently we had one of these instances occur, and a payee's banking situation was disrupted, and they needed to be paid on an expedited basis. Now, sometimes that means that we'll pay them on the next check if that is appropriate for them, and sometimes we'll issue a special payment to them. And so in this particular case, we needed to issue a special payment so that this payee could pay some critical bills. And so a whole group of staff respond in this type of case. It's member services, benefits, financial accounting services division, administrative services. And in this particular case, the following people just went above and beyond to get this payment out. Irvin Wu, Michael Hong, Ted Granger, Theo King, Angela Ward, Alan Molina, Elsie Gutierrez, Clara Lanting, and Carol Jimenez, and Renee Copeland. But a special thank you goes out to Faustino Herrera. So this whole team worked to get this check out, and it was clear they weren't going to make the deadline for the check to be FedExed, which mean that, you know, there would be an extra day delay, and this particular payee couldn't wait for that. So Faustino wound up staying beyond his shift. He works in our mailroom. He stayed beyond his shift, waited for the check to be issued and printed, and then personally drove the check to a FedEx location so that we can make it in time to get it FedEx to the member. And that's just one demonstration of the compassion, the care, and the dedication of our staff to our members and our payees. So I wanted to thank that team, and then specifically thank Faustino for going above and beyond. It's really appreciated. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Popovich. That takes us to Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Kryman.
Yes, good morning, Chair Pryor. Good morning, trustees. Wanted to highlight a couple of areas that are important at LACERA. And so the first thing that I wanted to mention was that we did on Monday, May 2nd, welcome back to the office our staff. As you know, we've implemented a hybrid work model where half of the staff will be in on 1 week and the other half will be working remotely. We provided the managers the latitude to customize their staff schedules during the week when they're on. And I can tell you that in welcoming them, the executive office and we went downstairs and tried to say hello to every single person that came through. There was a lot of really positive feedback that we were receiving from staff. They were actually very happy to be back. It was almost like a reunion, so to speak. We hadn't seen each other for 2 years. There were a couple of times there where, so much for social distancing because they were just elated to see one another and couldn't resist hugging or handshaking, what have you. But it was really great to see that camaraderie, the friendships I think that have developed over the years. It's really, I really experienced that for the first time. Remember, I got here in November of 2019, and so everybody left 4 months into my tenure, and so I got to see a lot of faces that I saw on Zoom. I didn't recognize some people, but it was just a really, really nice time. And we're continuing to welcome back the blue team next week. And so we'll go through that process again. But a lot of really positive feedback, a lot of grateful people to be back, a lot of grateful people to be able to work in a hybrid work model. And it was just a really good experience. One of the better weeks, quite frankly, that I've had at LACERA. Not that they're all great, but this one was a little bit more special. So we're working. I did want to recognize, however, the IT team. So as we brought people back, there were a lot of reconfigurations of the workstations that needed to be done. I know that in talking to some of the IT folks, a lot of them gave up their day offs to come into the office just to help everyone. And they came in early, they left late, a lot of overtime in order to get all those workstations up and running. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Kathy and Sami and their team for the dedication and trying to get everything resolved, all the way from, my screens aren't working, I can't get the sound out of my computer, the video isn't working, my printer isn't set up. They all did a wonderful job setting us all up, and we should be up and running and ready to welcome our members sometime in the very, very near future. And we're looking forward to that reunion as well. I did want to let you know also that we did receive comments back from County Council on our MOU and the salary ordinances and the resolutions that we are going to be putting forward to the Board of Supervisors for the cost of living adjustments that were negotiated as part of our labor agreements with SEIU. So we received those comments late yesterday. We'll be making all the technical changes that they're asking for and then resubmitting it and trying to get a date from the executive office, the county executive office, to place it on the Board of Supervisors agenda for their consideration. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do it before the end of the fiscal year, but we're working very, very hard to make that happen. I know that everyone is anxiously awaiting that agreement to be approved. Did want to let you know that we'll be meeting, my staff and I, with Cassandra. We'll be meeting with Siegel and Milliman to go over the analysis on the $1 million benefit cap, the analysis that the county has prepared. So we'll be meeting next week, or actually I think early the following week. We have Sackers next week, and so we needed to delay it one more week. So we're going through a lot of the materials. We're trying to understand their analysis, and once we do that, we will we anticipate making a presentation to the board just to give you a status update on that, and scheduling a meeting with the County of Los Angeles as well, so that we can go through that and see if we can come up with some solutions to the issues that we've raised in terms of the $1 million cap. So those are the three items. So the last thing that I did want to thank my staff. We did finally get through March Madness. We're in the process of cleaning up some additional applications and processing some additional applications. But I did want to note one thing. Last year we processed through 3,451 applications for retirement. Through March, we processed 3,454. So we're actually exceeding the number of applications that we processed all year last year. So we still have 3 months to go. So we're expecting definitely some additional applications that is going to probably put us high at the highest level that we've ever been at in terms of processing applications over a 1 year period. So with that, I'm more than happy to stand for questions. You're muted.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kryman? Seeing none, thank you, sir. That brings us to the disability retirements on the consent calendar. We have on page 1, 671 through 684. I'm showing 678 has been pulled by staff. So 671 through 684 on page 1 with 678, John and Miller has been pulled by staff. I need a motion.
And then Mr. Chair Pryor, it's 671D to 694D, with the exception of 678D.
Oh, sorry. I just did the first page. So page 1 and page 2. These are safety, SCD, consent calendar, sheriffs.
Move approval.
Sheriffs and DA investigators, 671 through 694 with
Second.
678 is pulled. We have a motion and a second.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, very good. I got a thumbs up. Mr. Kehoe? I'll come back to you, Mr. Kehoe. Mr. Robbins,
I'm an aye.
Mr. Bernstein,
I'm also an aye.
Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Pryor.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Going to page 3, which is fire, SCD, fire and lifeguards. safety SCD fire and lifeguards on the consent calendar. 1466 through 1476 Bravo. This is page 3. I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Mr. Pryor.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Wow, what's that? Cell phone link. All right. Next one is 2372. This is page 4 and page 5. 2372 through 2385 Charlie.
Move approval.
2372 through 2385. Do we have a motion? I'll make the
Yes, sir.
motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. This is Ms. Ginsburg.
Thank you.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. And that brings us to our consent items. We have item A through item F on the consent calendar. Do I have any requests to pull any of those items?
Yes, I'd like to ask if we could move 6G, the travel policy revision, to the excluded consent calendar.
We've got 6G. Which one's travel policy?
So that one is on page 3, item 6G. So we
D.
will move that one to item 7, excluded from consent items. And so the motion would be for consent items A through F and H.
Got it.
And I'm happy to make the motion for those items on consent.
Remainder of
Second.
consent items, we have a motion and a second.
Sorry, who was the second? I have Mr. Bernstein.
I
Robbins
was.
was the second.
Very good. Thank you so much. Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
So we have 2 items that are to be discussed, non-consent. I'll go ahead and do the non-consent item first and give staff a little time to prepare to answer questions regarding the consent item that was pulled. So first one is non-consent item A, and that's recommendation by Mr. Benefleur that we designate and inform actuarial determined factors based on retirement age 66 for general plan members. You have a memo dated April 29th, 2020.
Sorry, Chair Pryor. Is this item the non-consent item A, Carlos Barrios regarding the Alameda decision?
Whoa. I have why do I have non-consent item A is the recommendation for April 29th memo on regulations for Article 5 with Mr. Benefleur with an April 29th. Oh, what am I? Wow. Let me just to explain something here. I have had a real problem with some technical issues over the last couple of days, in that I did not receive. I am on a different computer, and for some reason, BoardVantage just decided to switch my agenda back to 2020. I was wondering why Mr. Oh boy.
No problem. So Chair Pryor, would you like to discuss the item that was pulled from consent items?
What I'd like is my iPad back. Yeah, what item am I, what am I,
Yes.
am I discussing that's on the
Sure.
non-consent calendar?
Yes, so we pulled, Trustee Bernstein pulled item 6G, which was the revised education and travel policy. Staff is available to consider that item. So we can go ahead and discuss that now. Chief Counsel is actually ready for, to entertain any comments or questions.
Thank you. And can you please, I'm not going to be able to keep going if I can't have the current agenda. And I thought I had it on Board Vantage.
No problem. I will email you and text you the information.
Actually, you sent it, I'm sorry, you did send it to me before. It's just going to take a lot of scrolling to get through it.
No problem, and I will be able to assist you in each of the items.
All right, I got it back up on email. It's just gonna be really hard to be able to get through it if it's sitting on email because. All right, let's go ahead with the consent item, please.
May I speak, Chair Pryor?
Yes, go ahead.
So I think the work is excellent. I observed one thing that I think is potentially an unintended gotcha. I don't like, under the cessation of travel requirements, how mandatory it is. It would appear to me, for instance, that an elected trustee who chooses to set in motion their retirement and knows they won't be running is obligated to stop all travel. It appears that as appointed, we don't always know how things are going to go down. I'd like it to be softened to be sort of an advice against travel or keeping travel to required travel, something. I just think the language is harsh and creates a potential gotcha for trustees who may be rotating off, who may not even realize they're rotating off. I just like to soften that language. I think it's an aspiration more than a mandate. Steve, you look like you want to say something.
Actually, no, it is structured now following the discussions that have been had. And it's the same, it was a mandate in the original policy, and it continues to be a mandate now. But no, this is the board's policy, and we can soften the language to make it aspirational. The board can consider the policy advantages for having an aspirational policy versus a mandate, which makes sure that trustees who are leaving the board don't travel, or because they really may not need to, but it can go either way. This is up to the board.
I just think that not all travel is long-term benefit. I don't know that banning people from going to SACRS in November accomplishes anything. I just would rather have it be a suggestion rather than a shall mandate. I think
Okay.
Mr. Santos is in queue.
I am trying Mr. Santos.
Yes, thank you. I support Mr. Bernstein's suggestion. And also, I would like to also suggest that with regards to reimbursement Schedule A, that we include the reimbursement for COVID-19 PCR rapid tests. The U.S. requires coming back to the country that all passengers have a negative PCR test. So I know the staff and board members travel international, so therefore, we need to pay for that. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
A clarification from staff. I thought we already had language, for instance, that provides a reimbursement for necessary vaccinations. Is that already existing in the plan? I agree with Mr. Santos that we should. I'm questioning whether we want to be so specific about PCR tests or just have a general approval for any required vaccinations or testing for travel.
I don't believe that's in the policy currently. There is a general catch-all at Section 7 of Appendix A, other business expenses, which includes business expenses reasonably incurred in connection with LACERA travel, and it would certainly, I think, reasonably fit within that, but we can be explicit about it since we have to make the other revision in any event. Again, take the board's direction on that.
So Mr. Santos, if you would be open to it, my recommendation would be that we define that necessary business expenses include required vaccinations and medical testing for travel.
Yes, I mean, I wasn't referring to vaccinations, but simple the PCR tests that is required because it might be, some of our colleagues may not be vaccinated, but if they do travel coming back to the United States, we all vaccinated or unvaccinated individuals required to submit a negative PCR test. So I will defer to, with regards to the issue of mandatory vaccination, is more the PCR tests that I'm referring to, but I will refer to anybody else who may have a comment on the issue of vaccinations.
Yeah, I misspoke, Trustee Bernstein, Trustee Santos. I understood it to be relate to the rapid test that would be required to exit or enter.
Whatever staff recommends. Again, and I wasn't speaking to COVID vaccinations. I was speaking more, for instance, many of the African and some of the Asian countries have vaccination regimens that are required before you can get a visa.
Good point, Mr. Bernstein. I have no objection with regards to that.
With those two changes, those two issues agreed, do we have a motion to accept the item?
Mr. Santos, would you like to make the motion? I'll second it.
So move.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to accept item from the consent calendar. What item is it, Ms. Bonnie?
6G,
Thanks. Item G.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. And now we're on to the 2022 non-consent item calendar.
Actually, we have the non-consent items, item 8A, which is a recommendation as submitted by Carlos Barrios regarding the overpaid retirement benefits resulting from adjustments required by the Alameda decision.
Thank you, Mr. Barrios.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board Trustees. This memo would normally first have been brought to the Operations Oversight Committee for approval, but due to an urgency to adjust retiree benefits to prevent further overpayments, we are bringing it to the full board. As a result of the Alameda decision, standby pay could no longer be included in the compensation earnable following the passage of PEPRA on January 1st, 2013, where standby pay was included in the computation of contributions would need to be returned, and where it was included in the final average compensation to compute retirement benefits would need to be reduced, but on a prospective basis only, effective August 1st, 2020, and those overpayments collected. The issue here is that the board recovery policy instructs staff to collect interest on overpaid retirement benefits, whereas at the same time, CERL does not allow for interest to be paid on contributions after retirement. So we believe members could take issue with this difference. So our systems division has worked very hard, and they've completed 380 calculations of our retirees who are overpaid more retirement benefits than they are overpaid contributions. We still have another 156 members who are in process that need to be computed manually. We're projecting the total overpayments will be $1.4 million in retirement benefits. The interest on the overpaid retirement benefits would increase the overpayments, but we're asking the board to direct staff not to pursue roughly $66,000 in interest, because at the same time, we could not pay interest on overpaid contributions.
First question, what has our interaction been with the county CEO's compensation unit, and what kind of notification / bargaining has happened with the affected union locals regarding this item?
My understanding, and maybe JJ or somebody can help me here, but this item is under the Alameda decision, and we don't really have an option but to remove standby pay on a prospective basis following PEPRA. That was part of the decision. So we have already made that modification that was done back in March of 2021. So those contributions are no longer being taken on standby pay. And we are working, we have already begun the process on the active members. And so we are not returning contributions to them. We are offsetting their contributions by suspending their contributions. So anything that we owe them, we can't refund them, but we are suspending them. So I don't believe there's any interaction with the county or the union needed here, except that we need to take this pay component off as far as being pensionable or part of compensation earnable. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that does. I'm a little worried we're in sort of uncharted waters here, because as you know from some recent court decisions, we can unilaterally make decisions based on employee benefits and even payments. And those same decisions fall into the realm of collective bargaining for unions and the county itself. Although we feel that we can act unilaterally, it still may be an item that requires collective bargaining. And I'm just definitely the flags are on this one. So I'll assume that we have discussed that with council, and you feel that we didn't need to. So
if I can jump in here, Mr. Pryor, the Board of Retirement has authority over what's pensionable and non-pensionable. So back in March of 2021, we did bring this to the board. We went through the normal process after the Alameda decision of, looking at, the pay codes that may or may not have been impacted. And this one went through that standard process, the same thing that we do for any pay code that comes, any new pay code that comes up.
right.
The same process went through, and based on the Alameda decision and the court's direction, that's when we determined that this would not be pensionable. We brought it to the board in 2021, I believe it was.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and then they approved it. So in these particular cases, we would not, and we have historically not, to my knowledge, had any interaction with the bargaining process on it. That may be something that comes up in the next round because it's no longer pensionable, but that's just the background on it that I thought would be good to share.
Well, obviously,
Chair Pryor.
it's the county's responsibility to negotiate this item if it does require negotiation. So I'm not suggesting that we would make that interaction happen. But as long as we've advised county and the county compensation unit far enough in advance, I don't see that there's a problem either. Les, Mr. Robbins.
Are the affected employees primarily safety series?
No, they do include the hospitals, physicians, nurses, and people in the hospital who are on standby pay, and a number of other departments as well.
Okay.
Mr. Wright.
Yes, thank you, Chair Pryor. I would only add to what Mr. Popovich said, that the employee organizations were advised back last year when the action was taken to exclude those standby pay codes from pensionable compensation. And there were discussions between staff and some of the employee organization representatives about that. So they've been aware of this issue, but going back to last year.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. That brings us to non-consent item B, which, let me check the
Chair
agenda.
Pryor, we will go ahead and entertain a motion and a vote for this item.
Oh, thank you.
Move
I'll move.
approval.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe? Mr. Ross?
I'm an aye.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. That brings us to non-consent item B, recommended by Kathy Delano, interim Chief Technology Officer, that board authorize staff to engage with Eccentric Corporation for consulting to customize and implement case management software. Is there a presentation or just a vote?
Good morning, Chair Pryor and trustees. During the October 2021 Operations Oversight Committee meeting, the committee approved the release of a request for proposal to find a vendor that would implement a case management solution for LACERA. We're nearing the completion of this RFP process and are recommending Centex to the Board of Retirement for the procurement, configuration, customization, and implementation of an enterprise case management software solution. We submitted a detailed memo that outlines the RFP process and our recommendation. We also have a PowerPoint presentation that we're happy to share, or we will simply stand for questions, whichever is your pleasure, Mr. Chair.
I'm curious, let's go ahead and take a quick thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you want to see the presentation? Thumbs up. Getting a few thumbs up here. Yeah, let's go ahead with the presentation, please.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to introduce Celso Templo. He is he's in charge of the project management office at LACERA, and also Iveta Brecco. She works in the project management office, and she is the project manager for this project. So Celso, I'll turn it over to you.
Bravo. Thank you, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Pryor and trustees for having us. Today, we will go over the highlights of the case management software solutions, request for proposal, and vendor recommendation for phase 1. Next slide, please. As you can see, there's 7 LACERA's business division that have expressed interest in a case management system solution. As shown in this slide, benefits, member services, quality assurance, retiree healthcare, disability retirement services, disability litigation office, and legal office have expressed interest in having case management solution. Next slide, please. As part of the initial requirements gathering, several requirements were discussed and requested by subject matter experts from the benefits, disability retirement services, and disability litigation office. As a result, these requirements in the slide made up of the first phase of the 3 business processes as covered in the RFP. The phase 1 processes needing case management solutions are as follows. First, payment and retirement agenda, disability retirement, and then disability litigation. Next slide, please. The following slide reflects several of the project timeline and milestones of the RFP project. The team posted the RFP on LACERA.com starting the first week of October of last year and completed the vendor recommendation on March 31st of this year. As you can see, all the milestones and tasks were completed and they were all right on schedule. Next slide, please. This slide reflects the case management RFP process flow. It demonstrated several critical processes involved starting from the project kickoff. Then there's the RFP completion and posting to LACERA.com. We also had a vendor conference accompanied by the Q&A with the prospective vendors, and some provided the proposals. The team evaluated and selected this for presentation. Vendors presented their proof of concept or prototypes to solution the 3 processes I mentioned earlier. Stakeholders rated and narrowed the vendor pool from 13 to the top 3 finalists. Then a deep dive due diligence was conducted by SMEs, with the finalists allowing the business division to ask specific questions and ensuring that the finalists adhere to best practices in technology and security related matters. Also, we reached out to the finalists' references and verified their accomplishments. Finally, the team tallied the rating results and SME's findings and presented them to the executive management, including the recommended winning bid. As you can see, the last and final process is today's BOR presentation. Next slide, please. This slide provides a breakdown of several key stakeholders, including the executive sponsors, division managers, legal office, key subject matter experts from selected business divisions, information security, systems PMO, and technology experts that participated. They all played an essential role in evaluating the vendor, providing legal guidance, ensuring that the vendor adheres to the technology and security best practices. Some verified the references, while executive management championed every process while providing support on each of the phases. Next slide, please. This slide enumerates 13 vendors that responded to the RFP and submitted their proposals to bid for LACERA's search for the case management software solution. Next slide, please. This slide demonstrates how the vendor evaluation and recommendation exercise narrowed down 13 vendors into 3 as a result of the stakeholders' vendor ratings and interviews. Consequently, a deep dive due diligence was performed to the top 3 finalists by the LACERA's case management SME, resulting in the recommended vendor, which is Ascentex. Just to give the board and the trustees, as far as the deep dive due diligence, each finalist was provided about 2 to 3 hours duration, wherein SMEs participated by asking extensive questions about their processes and proposed solutions. These SMEs are from executive office, DLO, benefits, DRS, and QA. Likewise, our system technical team inquired regarding the system's proposed integration with our current pension administration system or workspace. Also, InfoSec ensured that the finalists adhere to the best practices concerning security-related items. Finally, Systems PMO verified some of the finalists' references and previous accomplishments while facilitating any follow-ups that's needed. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the results of the business divisions and technology SMEs expert grading each of the 3 finalists. Also, it shows the ordinal rating of the implementation and licensing cost of each of the finalists. And from the tabulation of the ratings and costs, Ascentex came out as a front runner. Hence, the LACERA business divisions are confident that Ascentex is capable of building and implementing a case management solution for LACERA. In addition, our technology assessment team confirmed that Ascentex case management software products could be integrated with our pension administration system, which is Workspace. In continuation, Iveta will talk more about Ascentex Corporation, its proposed implementation project team, and Ascentex App Base. It's their case management software. Iveta will show several of the user interface or screens of App Base. So Iveta, please take it away.
Thank you, Celso. Can I have next slide, please? Ascentex is a private California corporation established in 2005, headquartered in Culver City, and has offices in Australia and Europe. Ascentex core business is case management software platform. Its product AppBase is an enterprise case management platform used by financial services and public sector worldwide for their mission-critical applications. The organizations below are some of the active users of Ascentex application AppBase. As you can see, implementations here range from 75 users up to 2,000 users. Next slide, please. If the board approves our recommendation, Ascentex has already established a core team that will work with LACERA. And as you can see, these are highly qualified professionals with a lot of experience. Next slide, please. Ascentex AppBase is an enterprise case management system which helps simplify and automate work in an organization. The platform ships with the graphical builders that allow business analysts to configure a completely functioning business solution without any development. Business logic can be implemented using drag and drop tools. There are also developer tools that will allow AppBase integration with our pension administration system Workspace. Professional services will cover system configuration and implementation, software subscription, hosting, workshops, brown bags, training, support, and maintenance. AppBase upgrades will not incur additional charges for us. And I will show several examples of the interface. Can I have next slide, please? This is a template of a case view. It can be configured so that every business division can benefit from tracking information and coordinating work between different business divisions. Next, please. This is an example where cases can be broken down into tasks, which are further distributed and assigned to the system users. And cases also can launch subcases. Next one, please. LACERA team was very impressed by the document management abilities, where documents can be easily uploaded, retrieved, associated with a case or with a member record. Also, multiple documents can be combined into one with the ability to bookmark and create table of contents. Next one. Updates includes service level management tool. Here, work can be monitored and reassigned by priority or reassigned according to urgency of the case. Next one. Audit trail is configurable and allows to track user actions, member interactions, and interactions with other applications. And the last one. And here is an example of a business intelligence dashboard that provides real-time information regarding cases, tasks, SLAs, and historical data. So that is a quick introduction into Syntax and their user interface. Thank you. Celso, back to you.
Thank you all. And we appreciate the time that you provided us. And I take it back, Kathy. There you go.
Thank you, Celso and Iveta. Chair Pryor, we'll stand for questions now.
Celso, Kathy, Aveda, thank you very much. And do we have any questions?
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval and
Second.
a second by Mr. Sanchez.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And give me a minute here to get back to my agenda. That brings us to non-consent item. Oh, hold on, sorry.
No problem, Chair Pryor. The next item is non-consent item number 8C, and this is a recommendation to approve the SACRS voting delegate. SACRS.
I want a speech from President Gray.
I second that.
I'll also make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a
Thank you.
motion and a second, and let's go ahead with the roll call, please.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Of course, yes.
Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Bernstein.
Aye, with delight.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Would Mr. Harris have the vote if Mr. Robbins was?
Yes, he would. He's actually on vacation, so he's not available.
Oh, sorry, I thought I saw him in there earlier. Okay. We have reports and the presentation for item 9 by strategic planning consultant.
Yes, and Mr. Lugo will go ahead and do a brief introduction.
Yes, good morning, Trustee Pryor or Chair Pryor trustees. I just want to provide a brief introduction to our guest, Gayla and KH Consulting. During the February 2022 meeting at the Board of Retirements, the board approved the selection of KH Consultant as LACERA's strategic planning consultant to assist with LACERA's strategic planning efforts, excuse me. I'm pleased to report that our strategic planning efforts are now underway and welcome Gayla as well as KH Consultant, her team, to provide the trustees an update. So with that, Gayla.
Thank you. And part of our commitment is to give you updates as this process proceeds. This will be your first update, and much of it is getting you oriented in terms of the background of what the work methodology is and work completed to date.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to cover a little bit about the strategic planning framework. I'm going to go over the project overview and then the work completed to date. In the RFP, it was very specific about what you were looking for, and that the scope was to include the strategy not only around the Board of Retirement, but also how LACERA supports the Board of Investment, which already has its own strategic plan around the investment strategy. I want to be a little bit more specific about these deliverables because I think it'll be a little clearer. One of the items that we're going to deliver to you is called the strategic plan. It typically covers a 3 to 5 year period. And we call this your public facing document. You would normally post this on your website. It would be the document that would really outline your mission, your vision, your values, and very importantly, your strategic priorities or goals. In addition, supplementing the strategic plan is what we call an internal working document. It's typically an MS Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, and it really outlines more specifically the measurable objectives, the action steps, milestones, who's going to be accountable for implementing each action step, and what are the target completion dates. And this is a very important document for accountability internally. In addition, it requires refreshing every year based on progress made, lessons learned, and typically would roll it out for subsequent years. An action plan is more detailed for year 1, year 2, and then less specific for year 3. So again, it's a living document that keeps being updated. The third deliverable is performance metrics. And there seems to be a strong desire to help LACERA become more evidence-based in its decision-making. The other important component of the metrics is to really define the strategic metrics for you to measure success in terms of implementing your strategic plan. So these metrics will be very strategic and should be supplemented by your already existing operational metrics. The last deliverable we've been asked to deliver comes at the end, and it's really a workbook so that LACERA staff can maintain the strategic plan going forward once we have finished our work. Quick update where we are. We officially started March 14th. We are still receiving documents that we're going through. We have conducted about 17 individual interviews and focus groups. The focus groups are with each division manager and the division manager's direct reports. We're also doing a focus group with support staff. And in those meetings, we're really trying to understand what the employees identify as the strengths and weaknesses internally and the opportunities and threats externally. We have also completed 4 kickoffs. These have involved the executives, the management group called MAC, the supervisory group called SAC, and then 2 all staff ones for anyone to come. And we've had over 400 attend those. On May 19th, we are holding a strategy lab. And at the strategy lab, we will be sharing with the advisory group, which I'll talk about a little later, plus the MAC group. We'll be sharing with them what we learned from the focus groups, from our document review. And the purpose of the strategy lab is to begin to flesh out the key priorities. Based on what comes out of the strategy lab, we will be designing 2 surveys to go out to employees and another one to go out to members, targeted for June, to get their input on these priorities. Each priority will have an action planning team assigned to it then. Our team will work with them in facilitating then specifically what actions should be done, what are the objectives, and sometime probably around early September, we will then have the action planning teams present what they came up with to the advisory team at what we call a strategic planning summit. It is our desire to deliver all 4 of these deliverables to the board in the late fall, ideally before Thanksgiving, no later than by Christmas. We also believe in active engagement. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about, should this be a top-down process? Should this be a bottom-up process? And what we recommend is really a combination of the 2. Yes, the board has to drive this. The more the board is committed to the vision, the priorities, we find that organizations have greater success in their outcomes. The executive team also has to keep direct focus on the changes. Division managers have to implement the changes and staff need to buy into it. The other key component is input from your members. In a traditional model, this would be customers who really provide useful feedback in terms of what works, what doesn't work, what are their desires going forward around these priorities. Now, yesterday I did meet with the Strategic Planning Advisory Team. They've decided to call themselves a Spark team to spark ideas in terms of strategic planning process. It includes executives, division managers, and 4 trustees. The responsibility of this Spark team is to really guide our team in giving advice when we have options. So for example, we went over the work approach with them yesterday. We'll go back to them to have them look at the draft surveys. They will participate in the strategy lab, the summit at the end, and review all the draft documents before they're finally approved. Let me go on here. I thought the board might be interested. We did a little icebreaker exercise and we got input from over 400 staff. And the icebreaker, the first question was, what do you like the most about working remotely? And the second question is, what do you like the least? And just an FYI, there was strong support that as challenging as it might have been in March of 2020 to pivot to the remote, people did feel there were a lot of benefits. As we know, reduced commuting time is important in Los Angeles, but also there was support for better work-life balance, improved productivity. They felt it was important for recruitment and retention. But they also recognized the downsides, the social interaction and isolation, challenges with data and technology, household distractions. And many felt it blurred too much the work-life balance, that their work spilled into their personal life. So again, it was just a little warm-up exercise and thought you might like to see this, because I think something we may be looking at is how do you effectively manage a hybrid environment going forward? Every organization in America are going to be pioneers in figuring this one out. In terms of strategic planning, I know some of you may be familiar with this, but I wanted to go over some of the terminology. We will be spending time to revisit what your vision is, where you want LACERA to be 10 years from now. And this should be very aspirational, something that draws people to want to work for your organization and they're committed to it. I already talked about the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The mission defines what you do day in and day out. So if it's written on your wall, everybody knows exactly what you do. Values are the behaviors. And then finally, the strategic priorities. What's important is this roadmap, which is the action plans, which would then be a means to monitor progress and make necessary refinements. In the kickoffs, we did a couple of other exercises, which I thought you as the board would be interested in. We did a quick poll on what people thought of the current 3P mission: produce, protect, and provide the promised benefits to our members. And I think it's very compelling. I rarely get these high response rates. 94% love it or feel it just needs a little tweaking. People know it, they memorize it. It's important to go back and refresh. This hasn't been looked at for a while, but this mission is part of the DNA of the organization. We did a similar exercise on the values. And one of the surprises was that the values were actually created in the early 1990s. And we know a lot of things have changed since then. And when we looked at the values, there was not as much support. There were people who said, I don't really recall them. I don't like profit as the acronym for recalling them. You'll see 47% felt they needed some tweaking. 8% felt they needed a major overhaul. One of the areas that I'm finding with a lot of organizations in the last 3 years is increased interest in other additional values or combined values, including diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. Regarding the member survey, I want you to know that we've been working with the staff to figure out the best way to distribute this. Right now, the target is to send it out in June with the regular newsletter. We have about 18,000 members, I believe, who have digital computer access issues and normally are mailed information. So we're going to provide them with both the option that you can either do it online or you can complete a hard copy. We will keep it brief, and we're going to really focus it around the priorities under consideration. I mentioned the action planning teams, just to give you an idea of what those are about. Once a priority is chosen, we would form a working group, and it would be around typically 8 to 12 participants. They typically meet 3 to 4 times over a 2-month period. It'll be during the summer months. And we facilitate them and help train them on how to present the action plans they develop before at the summit before the advisory team called Spark. The other thing that I found really heartfelt was when we did this kickoff and we had over 400 people attend, we did ask who would like to work on these. We already have 40 people who've signed up. So to us, it shows a lot of interest in this process. So I wanted to mention, just sort of in wrapping this up, we're committed to employee engagement, but we're also highly committed to engagement at every single level, the members, the management team, and also the boards. So in conclusion, what we will be working on is defining the vision as you go forward along with the mission and values, identifying the priorities, engaging the various stakeholders, and also will remain very mindful of how your membership is changing, which is why the survey will be useful to truly understand what they would like to see, for example, is the format of how they access services. The strategic plan itself is going to be the umbrella strategy for LACERA. You as a board will have to make sure that the budget supports the plan. We have learned that if you do not align the budget with the plan, that it makes it much harder. So for example, if you have, today you talked about a case management system, if that, developing tools along that line becomes a priority, you have to make sure it's funded. You also have other plans then that also need to be in alignment. For example, the IT strategic plan, business continuity plan, HR plans, just to name a few. And with that, I've included in your packet some information about our team and our firm if you are interested. And with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Excellent. Thank you, Gayla. And do we have any questions? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I wanted to know how you were going to engage with the membership. And one reason I want to know that is because depending upon which membership you engage with, you may not, or you got to make sure that the membership you engage with reflects the real membership of LACERA. I'm talking about the retired, the active employees. They have organizations that represent different groups within the county. So I wanted to know how you were going to approach that engagement, and keeping in mind that most of the members, I would surmise, don't have an intimate knowledge of the organizational structure, the lay of the land within LACERA and how they go about delivering benefits, investing money, determining what the plan is going to be this year for a healthcare delivery. So I think there's some education about the organization and its complexities that members have to understand before they could really provide meaningful input into the strategic planning process. So how are you going to approach all that?
Well, I think the first step, and again, just to be inclusive, Trustee Moore, is I do think it would be dangerous to say we're only going to reach out to this smaller sample. So we wanted this to be inclusive, and we wanted the survey to go out to all members. And as much as each question may need to give a context as to why it's being asked, Most of the questions are going to be very focused on them as the customers in terms of, I think technology, for example, getting an understanding from them in terms of other customer service platforms they use. Are they comfortable in terms of online chat? Are they, what is their comfort level or interest in more self-service? It'll be more around their behaviors and their needs rather than sort of this open box in terms of how LACERA internally should run itself. So it's going to be very customer focused. Now, I know some people have said, should we have some members serve on action planning teams? And to your point, that sometimes is a little bit difficult because if you pick one, that individual may, or several or whatever, there's always a challenge of, are you really covering the range? So I would much rather have our action planning teams meet. We look at the issues, we look at the survey data. If there are areas where we need more information, we either would follow up with another survey or we might form a focus group. Let's say, for example, we get questions from the AQMD folks. That may warrant pulling together a cross-section from that area to understand what are their issues and how they differ from LA County, for example. But, every client's a little bit different. So we're going to have to feel our way through that question to see how it works.
Yeah, well, we're a very large organization. So you have this whole range of departments where people are working in their silos and, they have perspectives. And then you have the demographic groups. You have the retirees and you have the active employees, you have male, female, you have the executive ranks, the middle managed ranks, and the workers. And then you have Black, Asian, Hispanic, you have the whole racial thing. And so I would want to make certain that you got a range of opinion and assessments and that you intentionally get feedback from all those cross sections of the organization, because you send out a survey to 50,000 people and you get 5,000 back and 4,000 of those are from one specific demographic. Therefore, you make all your decisions based on that. You left out 85% of the people's opinions. So you got to do some active, intentional going out and getting input from everyone who's affected and involved.
So for us to have a check and balance, we will be asking demographics at the end of the survey. So we can just see what is the gender response, what classification are they in terms of active or retired or what have you, and where they came from. And I think to your point, if we see there's a gap, we're going to have to do some follow-up to help fill that, won't we?
Yes.
But the first pass will be to do the survey to all members, ask questions around the priorities, because, a concern I know some at LACERA said, if you just give them a blank sheet of paper, they're going to wish for the sky. We want to sort of manage expectations of what's possible. But absolutely, we need to look at the demographics. And if we find that we haven't heard from a certain segment of the population, we need to figure out how to fill in that gap.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I see Louis.
For Gayla? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lugo.
No, just a brief comment, and Trustee Moore, thank you for your comments. And I think one of the things that we certainly will take as an action item is we realize within our retiree and active groups, there's subgroups and membership groups and employee groups that we can be proactive on and reach out to make sure that they're alerted first and foremost to the importance of the survey. So there's a level of proactiveness there, but can certainly reach out to some of those subgroups within the county, as well as the retiree group. So we certainly have a list that we can compile and be proactive in that end as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Gayla, appreciate it.
And by the way, it's great working with you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All righty, well, that brings us to a closed session, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll need about 3 minutes to clear the room and turn off the live stream, and we'll go to closed session.
We did have items for staff review and good of the order.
Okay. All righty. Well, considering I'm working without an agenda right now, thank you for reminding me. Let's go ahead and get the room back together. And let's go ahead with items for staff review. Do we have any?
No, we do not have any items for staff review.
All right, good of the order.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Nothing for the group.
Ms. Gray,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Santos,
Yes, I want to thank the staff for the great work in getting the case management system going. This is something that is being have been discussed for years. So it is music to my ears that finally we're getting that system in place. Again, thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Moore,
I have nothing else to add.
Mr. Kehoe,
I definitely appreciate all the hard work from staff, specifically when it comes to all the legislative work that's been going on. So I appreciate all the hard work and effort from everyone, and same with the retiree healthcare side of the shop. Just amazing work. So glad to be a part of the solutions here. Thank you.
Mr. Robbins, Mr. Bernstein.
Good morning to everyone, and thanks for a good meeting. I just want to put in a plug. One of our items that we approved was a lobbying day or days in DC. And for particularly newer trustees who haven't done it, and it's obviously the chair's discretion, but it's a really great opportunity to learn some skills, to learn more about what we're doing and what our priorities are. So if people have the availability to do it, I just want to put a shout out. Many of us have done it in the past. I'm not available this month, but it's a great opportunity. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Just very quickly, good to see everybody. Thank you to all the staff and the trustees for all their work. Thank you very much.
Luis Lugo.
Just a good morning again, everyone, and a happy Cinco de Mayo as well.
JJ Popovich.
Thank you very much. I just, earlier today we talked about the efforts that staff did to prepare to come back to the office. And I do want to also recognize member services and systems, because they had a weekend day where everybody came into the office to get set up and, step up their time to do that, to make sure we return to the office efficiently. And I just wanted to share that. I know Mr. Kryman had mentioned, the overtime and everything, but there was like 23 to 26 individuals plus several system staff members, which came in on one Saturday so that we can come back and be ready to go Monday morning. And I just really wanted to specifically point that out. So thank you very much, and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Laura Guglielmo.
Hi, good morning. I just thank you, everyone. I do just want to say thank you to the staff who have been here throughout this pandemic every day. So we've had a lot of people, what we call on our Black team, who are primarily here in the office all the time, or have been throughout this whole process, and how supportive they have been in the folks who are coming back for the first time after a while, like our systems folks, who are just kind of helping people and administrative services to make sure that the staff transition has been smooth, that their needs are being met. So we really appreciate that. We really thank you so much also for your approval of the case management system. That's been, staff is doing backflips right now. We're super excited about this approval and getting going. There'll be a lot of work to go with that, but it's going to make a huge improvement. And we're really excited about the strategic plan and moving forward with that, and really targeting our moves towards simplifying and improving our operations for the benefit of our members. So thank you.
Stephen Rice.
Yes, good morning. I wanted to introduce to the trustees and also To staff, a new attorney, Jessica Rivas, who joined the legal division this week. Jess just came on camera. Good morning, Jess. Jess comes to us with an outstanding educational background with undergraduate degree at Princeton and a law degree from NYU. After law school, she spent a year at the district attorney's office, actually getting exposure to criminal work. She went to the California Attorney General's office for a couple of years, and she spent the past 8 years at County Council. We're very happy to have Jess with us. She's going to be board facing. You will see her. She's going to represent retiree healthcare. She'll be handling administrative appeals. She'll be involved with felony forfeitures, Form 700 compliance, privacy issues, litigation, and other matters. So I wanted to welcome Jess.
Welcome, Jess.
Thank you so much. Look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Santos Kryman?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the trustees for all of their support. We have a lot of initiatives that are moving forward. We're very, very excited to begin the strategic planning process, the case management system. New IT initiatives are going on each and every day, and we're going to be making some presentations not only to the OOP committee, but also to the Board of Retirement on some of the good work that we're doing in the project management area, in addition to the case management systems. All the support functions, in terms of the budget system, that's coming in. The HR hiring plans, I'm happy to report that we're progressing with our hiring on the investment side. We have Jess on board on the legal side. I know that there's another attorney that we're going to be onboarding real soon. I did have the opportunity to meet with our brand new class of retired benefit specialists. There were about 15 of them that made it to the office for the first time. And so it was the executive team and I met with them for a half hour to an hour, talking about expectations, about LACERA, about the good work, and most importantly about the members and what they do each and every day to improve the quality of life of every person in Los Angeles County. So we have a lot of work to do, but I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of can-do attitude from all throughout the ranks. And so we're excited. We're in a really, really good spot of making some simplifications and improvements to our operations that I think are long and coming. So I want to thank the board for your support. We'll continue to provide you with updates as we move forward. We're also beginning to communicate with our staff more and more using different channels. We sent you a welcome video. We're going to be using more video to keep our staff up to speed with where we are in all the various projects. And I would also mention that I wanted to congratulate and thank the communications staff, quite frankly, for the development of the intranet site, which is going to be the landing spot for the executive team and for the management team to provide input and information to our line staff each and every day. So thank you all, and have a wonderful Cinco de Mayo and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Pryor.
Thank you. First, I wanted to congratulate Mr. Kryman and the entire staff. I know that wrapping up March Madness has been quite a task. Getting everybody back into the swing of things and in-person, in-desk work has been quite an accomplishment and a big project. And also really embarking on strategic planning is very important. And those are some very big projects, and I definitely appreciate all the work that's been going into those. I did want to mention to the other trustees, Mr. Bernstein brought it up earlier, we're going to have a legislative day in Washington at the end of this month in coordination with the NCPERS conference. NCPERS gives a very good federal update which on its own is quite good, but then we do spend some time visiting our legislators and letting them know what our issues are on a federal level. I would really encourage, especially if you've never attended, I really encourage attendance. And if you are attending, we're going to have a little meeting early in the conference on the first day and sort of get a strategy down about who we're going to visit and what our important items for discussion are going to be. So with that, I think we're finally, and unless I'm not reading my non-existent agenda correctly, I think we're good to go. You okay, Mr. Robbins? You're waving your hand.
No, I'd like to make a comment. I had to walk away from the computer when this all started and I heard I got skipped. So I have something that I would like to say regarding consultants. I think I voted to hire my last consultant as a member of this board. I think one of the things I like about LACERA, and I have for 25 years, is we don't do business like the county does. We don't hire a consultant to do every little thing, that some of which we could do with our own staff. So I'm not going to be voting to hire any more consultants for anything, because number one, they're expensive. And number two, I would like to see our own employees and our own staff being more engaged. And that's how we used to do it for years and years and years. The county way is to hire consultants. And I've been around this county for 45 years, and I know exactly how they conduct business. And I just don't like the fact that we seem to be just piling one consultant onto another and getting everything done with outside consultants, none of whom work cheaply, by the way. So I'd like to see us engage our own employees more. Frankly, I think a lot of them would welcome that, but we seem to be moving away from that. And like I said, that's how the county does business. And one of the things that I've always liked about LACERA is we were not just another county department that did business the way they do over at the Hall of Admin. So I'm done with my rant, but I ain't voting for no more consultants. Have a good day.
Thank you. Rant completed. And thank you as always, Mr. Robbins. And let's go ahead and let me bring up my agenda here. And let's consider good of the order concluded. Let's shut down the stream and let's go to disability retirement cases to be held in closed session. And let's make attendance adjustments as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, staff and consultants participating in the closed session. You may stay on the meeting platform. Those not participating in the closed session, you may be dismissed from the meeting now. If you're participating in the Operations Oversight Committee, you will be asked to join when the meeting starts. One moment while we clear the meeting platform.